Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jessie and today I'm doing a reading vlog. I didn't do a reading vlog in June, but I did one in April and May. And both the ones I did in April and May, I started the beginning of the month and I managed to get in 3 books. So I'm going to try to do that as well this time. The only difference is that I've already started one of the books that I will be reading. I started A Song Below Water by Bethany C. Morrow on Friday, and today is Sunday, June 5th. But I started this book earlier because I plan on annotating it and I want to do like an actual video book review, kind of going like really into detail about everything I loved about this book. And I guess if something happens and I turn out not to like it, I guess I'll talk about that. But I'm 84 pages in, so according to like Goodreads, like when I put the page count in, like how far it was, I think it said I was 29% of the way through. And so far, I can't think of anything I dislike or might dislike about this book. But I'm really enjoying it so far. It's about these two girls who are friends, and like there's a siren trial going on too. And basically, so sirens seem to be like very racially and like just generally prejudiced against because sirens for the past however many years have only been black women. So there's that, and then apparently there were siren trials during the time of the civil rights movements in the 1960s, and like the way they talk about the siren trials kind of reminds me of something between like the Salem witch trials, which is mentioned in this book, and it also kind of reminds me of like the Red Scare. I can't remember like exactly like what books made us read about that whenever I was in high school. Like whenever we only talked about that in my English class really, about the Red Scares and like the communism stuff. Like it kind of like vaguely reminds me of that. I don't know if that makes sense, but just like the way that like apparently if you're accused of being a siren, like you could have been brought to trial and stuff, or like been questioned about it a lot. So that kind of reminds me of that. But there's also other creatures in this book which aren't really racially prejudiced against so far, like Elokos, Elokos. I don't know. I don't know if I like accidentally skimmed over the part where it explained what they are. Like they seem to also have they have their own songs. Like they're musically oriented, I guess, kind of like a siren would be, but they don't face the same racial prejudice. And I'm assuming that's because maybe they aren't always black women. So I'm not completely sure about that. And then also there's sprites, which, so Tavia is one of the main characters, and then there's Effie. Tavia is a siren, whereas Effie, she's had like a bad experience with sprites in the past. Also, so far this book seems to have really good representation of mental health. I think like both characters have had their own experiences and are currently having their own experiences with their mental health and like kind of taking care of that, but like their mental health is also affected by everything that's going on. But anyways, this book is really good so far, and I will check back in with you guys later after I read a little bit more. Good morning, guys. I never updated you guys yesterday. It's actually Monday morning now, and Drone and I just finished breakfast. And there's not a lot I really know how to say about this book until I sit down and like really process it and think about it when I finish. But it's amazing so far. It's so good. It's so well written. And it's like stressing me out in like the good ways. Like, you know, like where you can feel the characters' anxiety and anticipation and stuff. Like I'm stressed reading it, but it's like the good stress. It's not like the bad stress where like I've got to put it down because I'm stressed because like I want what happens next, but like also I need a break. It's like the good stress where like I want what happens next and I have to keep reading. I got up at about 6:30 this morning, and I read a little bit while Rowan was still in bed, and I read until about 8 whenever he woke up. So I read, I have about 80 pages left, and I'm pretty sure I can finish this morning, especially if Rowan keeps playing really well like he is right now. And that way I can also, after I finish this book, get my review of it filmed and like planned out, because I do want to do a real review on this book, because I think this book's actually really important. It's like an alternate universe, kind of like it's essentially our world and our time, except there's also, I guess, magical and semi-magical creatures included somehow too. And so like there's still racism and stuff, but then added on to that, some of the creatures, they're not creatures, like some of the people who are magical are like treated differently. But yeah, this book is so good. I don't really also know how much to say about it without potentially spoiling it, especially because this is such a new book. I think A Song Below Water was only just released last month in June. So I know that I'm sure not a lot of people have gotten around to reading it just yet, or I'm sure a lot have, but like not as many as will have read it, you know, once it's been out for a few months to a couple years. But no, this is so good. I'm really enjoying it, and I will talk to you guys in a little bit after I've read a little bit more. Alright, so it's a couple hours later. Rowan and I just finished lunch, and Rowan's still finishing lunch. I just finished lunch, and I finished A Song Below Water maybe 2 hours ago, and I went ahead and got dressed, put on some makeup so I can film a video book review for it. And I've just been kind of gathering my thoughts, and I loved it, which I figured I would. Like after the first like few pages, like after I got into the story, it was something that I just assumed that I was probably going to love, and I did. I rated it 4 out of 5 stars, and I would definitely recommend that if you're able to read it, you should. I need to see if it's on Scribd, and if it is, I'll let you know or something. That way it's like more accessible. I don't know if it's like, I don't know if like anyone's libraries would have it yet, but it was really good. I really enjoyed it. I do want to circle back to something I said yesterday about like this book having good mental health representation, and I still agree with that for the most part. I think it does, but like after like kind of going through it, there isn't like a ton of mental health representation, so it's not like it's like a mental health related book, but like the way it's included and the amounts it's included, I think it's kind of like it was like tasteful and good, if that makes sense. Like both characters, Tavia and Effie, both had like a little bit of mental health issues that they struggled with and they dealt with, and kind of a trigger warning, but like apparently Tavia, like it's not like ever like mentioned in great detail, but it is mentioned like a couple of times that Tavia, when she was 11, made a suicide attempt. So if that bothers you, just a heads up. I should have already mentioned that, but I hadn't really known about that until I got further into the book. But just in case that is something that might affect you or bother you, there is a mention of a suicide attempt. And even then, I will say that I'm not sure like how strong of an attempt it was, because she was 11, which I know 10 is whenever kids are supposed to start understanding what death is and how it's permanent and stuff. So but I don't know like when kids, like most kids typically start learning about suicide and what that is. All like it's never mentioned that she was explicitly trying to kill herself. She was just trying to get rid of her voice and the siren voice and that problem, so I can get rid of the burden of being a siren on her parents. So like it wasn't necessarily that she was trying to kill herself, like, or at least it wasn't explicitly mentioned like that, but more so that she was trying to get rid of her siren voice. But like I said, that is mentioned, and do with that what you will. Also, I love the social commentary of this book, and it was really good. I really liked that. I like the way I like the inclusion of like the magical creatures and stuff, because like that was a huge part of like the plot. And I kind of like the way sorry, I'm shaking a little bit. Let me see if I can fix that. And I also kind of like the way, oh Jesus, I'm sorry. So like I like the magical elements, like with the like a bunch of the characters being like awesome part magical creature, and I like the way that was included. And like how it was like a big part of the actual plot, but also the way it kind of played into the social commentary. And by the way, I should, by the time you're seeing this video, have a book review video up for A Song Below Water, where I'm going to go into a lot more detail about this book, or it should be a lot more detail. But just know, I love this book. I really think that if you get a chance to read it, you should. It was really, really good. And the one thing at the ending is like knocked down to 4 stars for me, just because someone from Tavia's past that she didn't really know, or not Tavia, someone from Effie's past that she didn't really know came up, and like the way he's included, I don't know if I liked it. Like it just felt weird. Essentially it felt like everything came down to a custody battle that you didn't know about till that page, and that might be a little bit of a spoiler, so sorry, but like that's like just kind of what it reminded me of. Anyways, I probably won't talk to you guys until later today if I get a chance to start the next book I read today. And the next book I'm intending on reading is probably going to be Suicide Notes from Beautiful Girls, because I'm kind of wanting to read YA right now. But yeah, I'll talk to you guys again sometime later today, maybe tomorrow, I don't know yet. Alright, bye. Hey guys, it's Wednesday afternoon. I didn't read it all yesterday, so I'm a little bit behind schedule for how I plan on reading this week. But I plan on starting Suicide Notes from Beautiful Girls sometime today. I'll probably start it in just a minute, actually, because I was going to start Rowan's dresser. We bought this little $15 dresser off of Facebook the other day, or like a week ago maybe. And I need to sand it and paint it. And I was about to start sanding it while Rowan's napping, But I'm not gonna stand it right now because when I open one of the drawers, there's something on the bottom of it, and I can't tell if it's like the home for some kind of bug. So I just put it outside, and I'm gonna let Chris look at it because Chris is a lot better with bugs than I am. I don't like anything that's not a cat or dog. I like fur with 4 legs. But yeah, so I'm probably about to go maybe clean my room real quick and then sit, hang out, and read. I'm gonna start Suicide Notes from Beautiful Girls by Lynn Weingarten, and I'll catch you up on it later. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye. Hey guys, it's a few hours later on Wednesday still, and I'm about somewhere between a third of the way and a fourth of the way through Suicide Notes from Beautiful Girls. And I don't have a lot of thoughts about like really this book yet. I'm still getting background from it, like what's going on, like you know, like June. And so this is about a girl really named June and her, and I guess an old best friend named Delia supposedly committed suicide, but that's not quite right because supposedly Delia committed suicide by like burning herself to death, except Delia was always super scared of fire. So you don't know what's going on with that yet, and like June's trying to piece it together. And like this book, the reason I bought it is because it kind of reminds me of like Sadie, the female of the species, and Monday's Not Coming, because it has to do with like a girl who's trying to like either avenge the death of her friend or sister, or really she's more so just trying to figure out who did it. So I guess more so it reminds me more of Sadie and Monday's Not Coming. But also the way like the setting of the book, I don't really know, I can't remember where it's actually set in, like the state or anything, but the time period, like the way I picture it in my head, it kind of reminds me of Winter Girls, like just the setting, because it's taking place during winter. I don't remember, like, I think Winter Girls also took place in winter, like right after Christmas break and that kind of thing, like right after the New Year. And so like, it really reminds me of that, and I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it so far. It's just I think I'm expecting it to be on the same level as like how much I love Sadie and Monday's Not Coming. I think I'm expecting it to be on that level. So I'm not sure yet, and I'm afraid it's not going to be on that level. And so like it reminds me of Monday's Not Coming because it's like about a girl who like it's like it has to do with the friendship more so. Like a girl is trying to figure out what happened to her friend, but also kind of reminds me of Sadie because like there's like kind of time hopping, except in Sadie the time hopping is with a podcast. In this one it'll have like one chapter, or it'll have like a couple of chapters from June's point of view, like her first person point of view, and then it'll have a chapter that's dated anywhere so far from a year and a half back to the last one was dated over 5 years in the past. And like the backwards chapters are kind of piecing together her friendship with Delia, and then the chapters told from June's point of view are like trying to figure out what's going on now, where June is like trying to place the puzzle pieces together and figure out what's going on. Like I said, so far I think I'm mostly enjoying it, but we'll kind of have to see as we keep going, because I'm afraid also that I just might have like too high of expectations for this book. Hey guys, so I really suck at this week. So I don't know why. I guess I didn't think my week was gonna be as busy as it has been. Like just as far as like free time goes and stuff. And I'm really sucking at this. Today is Friday. I didn't check in with y'all or read at all yesterday. So I'm sorry. I'm about to try to read before Rowan wakes up from his nap. But he's been asleep for an hour and a half already, so I may have like anywhere from like 5 minutes to like another hour and a half, just depending on how his nap goes. But yeah, I also really want to finish Suicide Notes from Beautiful Girls today, and that way I can start The Vanishing Half and finish it by Sunday, maybe Monday. But yeah, once again, I'm so sorry that this vlog is all over the place and kind of sucks. But I will check in with y'all after I do some more reading. Bye. Alright, so I finished Suicide Notes from Beautiful Girls last night. I rated it 3 stars because like it was okay, and like it was good, but just not as good as I wanted it to be. And I actually had to listen to like the second half of the book, or maybe second third, or third of the book, like as an audiobook, because I just didn't want to read the physical book. I wasn't motivated to touch it or anything, just no. But so I have a few things to say about the book, about like kind of why I rated it 3 stars and why I think about it. the first thing I'm going to say is that I'm probably going to spoil the crap out of this book. So if you're interested in reading this book, maybe like after I give you the trigger warning, ignore it, because like it's not, I'm just gonna spoil it. I don't know how to talk about this one without spoiling it, because like the only way to talk about the whole second half of the book is to spoil the first half of the book. So anyways, trigger warning, there is a case of sexual assault, specifically rape, in this book. And I will also say that like I don't like the way this book kind of brings into question whether or not she was actually sexually assaulted, and like whether or not Delia made it up, because towards the end of the book, June sees something that makes her question it. So I will say that about that. And then from here on out, it's gonna be real spoilers and not just trigger warnings, because trigger warnings I don't think can be or should be spoilers. But anyways, so this book is about, I think I told you last couple clips, but it's about two friends. One's dead and the other one doesn't really believe she's dead, or doesn't believe she would have killed herself. So there's that. So like the first half of the book, it kind of reminds me of Winter Girls and Monday's Not Coming, and I'll explain how. So June and Delia's friendship and relationship, and like the roles they play in their friendship, and like the way they have a falling out, and even down to the last supposed phone call from Delia, kind of reminds me of Cassie and Leah's friendship from Winter Girls by Lori Hall Sanderson. And that was a book that I really enjoyed in high school. I don't know if I'd like it as much now, but I really enjoyed it in high school. And so I thought maybe that friendship dynamic I would like maybe I would like that friendship dynamic in this book. And it's just like, I don't know, I didn't like it because it seemed like June was overly naive and like too focused on like always wanting to please Delia. And that it reminded me of Monday's Not Coming, with just the way Delia like is supposedly dead and everything. And like June's the only one who's desperate to find out what's happening, because June's the only one who doesn't believe that Delia would just commit suicide by fire, which she's absolutely terrified of. So that kind of reminds me of Monday's Not Coming, and I loved Monday's Not Coming. That's probably one of my favorite books of this year. And by the way, Monday's Not Coming is by Tiffany D. Jackson. I forgot to say her name, and I want to make sure you know who the author is, especially because I mentioned the author's name for Winter Girls. But anyways, so like I really thought, like, you know, with the whole aspect of the book, like, yeah, I'm gonna like this. Like the first half really reminds me of that. And then so June like kind of starts meddling, and she kind of finds out a bunch of stuff. Like first, June's boyfriend has been hitting on, talking to whatever to Delia for the past year with the second phone, and he was there at her house the night she died, supposedly. And so June like digs into that. June like goes snooping through Delia's house whenever her parents are gone, and she finds a pregnancy test, and it's like, oh, like she must be pregnant with Ryan's baby. And like she tells June's boyfriend that, and like Delia was cheating, just not with Ryan. She was cheating with a girl named Aisling. And so so she wasn't pregnant, but like that all happens, and June just kind of like digs it all up and makes it kind of messy, so that eventually Aisling and Delia and like a couple other people kidnap June from like a Walgreens parking lot and take her to like this little house in the woods. And they kind of are like, no, Delia's alive and she needs your help. You need to clean up this mess you made, where you have everyone curious about what actually happened, because we need people to not be looking for Delia since she's supposed to be dead. And so she tries to fix that. Doesn't quite work. Gets most people off her back except for Jeremiah, because he is beyond grieved. He is like just dealing with immense grief, and he is not dealing with it well. So that happens, and then they want, because supposedly, I say supposedly because at the end of the book it kind of calls into question whether or not it really happened, which I don't like that. I don't like how, especially with like, I don't know if the Me Too movement was going on in 2015, which I believe is when this book was published, but well, now with the Me Too movement, I don't like the idea of books that call into question whether or not someone was really sexually assaulted. And I know why, because like sometimes people lie about that. But still, I think with like the current climate of that conversation, like maybe like when we talk about sexual abuse survivors and stories, let's not question them. Let's not make it where the reader questions it, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And so like, it comes into question that Delia, was she really sexually assaulted, because she made it sound like it happened recently, and she said that she bit her stepfather so bad it tore, he bled and it tore off a little bit of skin. And so at the end of the book, he's, for some reason, which you will know if you read the book, because I'm not going to completely spoil it, but I am spoiling it a little bit, but he's for some reason shirtless in front of June. He doesn't do anything to her. She's fine, by the way. I mean, she's not fine at the end of the book. She's like scarred for life with everything she's seen. But he is shirtless and he has no marks, which calls into question June's story, because that story seemed to have happened within the week that June died, and a bite from human teeth that tore skin and drew blood like that, surely there'd be some kind of mark, a bruise, maybe like some scratches or something. So that's brought into question. And so anyways, ultimately June ends up being an accomplice in like getting Delia's stepdad into legal trouble, and also into his murder from Delia. And the book ends with like a suicide note from June. But if you read the book, June didn't write that, because Delia, like, also, like, once you get to the second half of the book, Delia starts to have a point of view, and like you don't really have the past point of views anymore that were third person. Now it's flipping between June's first person and Delia's first person. And like Delia, she is obsessed with June. Like, she even, I think at one point she said it's not necessarily that she has a crush or she loves June. She's just obsessed with June. She wants June to be her person only. And so like she was jealous of Ryan whenever June and Ryan got together. And then in the book, it's time for it's time for Delia, Aisling, and the other people who are essentially supposedly dead kids as well. It's time for them to leave, and June's seen everything, so June either has to leave or go with them. And so essentially Delia's like, she's like, just either June's gonna be with her or June's gonna be with no one. And so I think you can interpret the end of the book one of two ways. So first is the one that I read about, like, when I was reading, I already kind of had an idea, but like the longer I've sat with it and thought about it, the more I thought maybe the other possibility could have happened. But I was reading Goodreads comments, like, just to kind of gather my thoughts and see what I thought about the book too, see what I agreed with, see what I didn't agree with, just to kind of get an idea. And one person was like, somebody in the comments of one person's review said like they didn't really understand the end of the book, because the book ended with a suicide note from June after June and Delia's conversation, in which Delia's like, you're gonna leave with me or you're gonna leave without me. And this is like the most, you're either gonna leave with me or you're not going to leave without me. And so this is like probably the most likely excuse where because Delia seems to have stolen probably a gun from some other guy in the book who's like, he's not super important, he matters for like 20 pages. But Delia steals a gun from him, or a weapon or something, and like it ends with like her essentially telling June, like, you have to be with me or you can't be with anyone. And then it ends with June's suicide note after that. So Delia seems to have murdered June and left a suicide note in her wake. That seems like it's the most likely thing that happened. But they're also with a group of kids who've like all faked their own deaths. So it seems like it could be at least just a little bit likely that June, who seems to have like some idea of self-preservation, although her main goal seems to always be pleasing Delia, would choose to be like, I'll go with you, and then she leaves and fakes her own death, similarly to Delia. So I don't know, it's just it could go either way. It's more likely that Delia shot June and left a suicide note for June, because it like all happened in the woods. But also like just based on the other characters in the book, maybe it didn't happen that way. So yeah, not a favorite, but meh. By the way, I didn't mean to talk about this book for so long. It's just I didn't like it, and I didn't also want you to know, I guess, enough about it to maybe say why I didn't like it. Like, it's just Delia, I didn't like her character, which you don't have to like a character, it's just, it helps sometimes, because also the plot wasn't my favorite either. Like, I don't know, just Delia seems so manipulative and awful sometimes, but also you want to feel sorry for her, and it's so hard and conflicting with her character. Whereas June, I have trouble feeling sorry for her because she's just so much into needing to please Delia, but like I could see why with that as well, just because of like the life she her home life and everything. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Suicide Notes from Beautiful Girls. Okay, and now I plan on starting The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett sometime today. And hopefully I'll be finishing it sometime tomorrow, sometime Tuesday. I don't know. But yeah, I'll be reading this. And I will let you know more about what's going on as like I read it. Because I've read stuff about this book, but I don't necessarily know what it's about still. Like, I know what it's about, but like, I don't know a ton about it. Like, I know it's about these two sisters who, they're both black. And I think it starts in the 60s. And one is white passing and the other one is not. And it's like about like the two different kinds of lives they live because of like the differences, because they're twins, but one is like more like able to live like a more white lifestyle because she's white passing and she's able to like kind of take advantage of white privilege and stuff, whereas the other one isn't. But yes, I will be reading this book and I'll let you know what I think of it as well.
Hi guys, it's been weeks since I've updated this reading vlog, but today I've got some reading done. I've read like to over halfway in The Vanishing Half, and I'm really liking it so far. For the past couple weeks I haven't really read it all. Like I've read like, 5 or 10 pages at a time here or there, but like I hadn't been in the mood to read and I hadn't had anything to update you guys with. So today, since I wasn't feeling very good, I just read. I think I'm coming down with a cold. Rowan, we took him to the doctor last week because he had like a fever and cough and just generally seemed to be feeling bad and stuffy nose and everything. His doctor, he has an ear infection and his doctor thinks like a little cold. Hang on one second. Rowan's doing a lot better now. His doctor prescribed an antibiotic for his ear infection. And his cold symptoms seem to have mostly gone away. He still has a little bit of a runny nose, but no more fevers. But I'm catching his cold symptoms now, minus the fever. So that's why my voice sounds like this. But this book, The Vanishing Half, is so good. So normally, like the way it's told, I'm not sure that I normally like, where it's like, multi family members, and it's also told across generations. Like part of it's told, in 1968, part of it's told in 1978, and now we're back to 1968. And then like there's so much like past interwoven into like the present of whatever part of the book it is. But I'm really liking it so far. And then like all the characters, I feel like they're so well done. I don't know if I'm yelling. I feel like I'm yelling. But Rowan's room's still echoes because we don't have a rug. And then also I'm stopped up. But like the characters just feel so well done. Like they've got so many layers and everything going on, and like why they are the way they are. But I'm loving this book so far. So yeah, I will update you guys again later. I'm hoping I'll finish this book tonight or tomorrow, and maybe I will if I get to keep reading like I have been today. Since I haven't felt well, we've just been holed up in Rowan's room with like pillows and blankets. And I've had the big light on, it just didn't look good for the video. So I've been letting him play in his room while I read, and I can like, his room's, a safe spot. But yeah, I'll update you guys again later.
I made my coffee a little too sweet. So I finished The Vanishing Half last night, and I loved it. It was 5 stars. This is my favorite book I've read this month. I've only read 3, but this is a favorite because it was so good. I'm about to try to talk about it, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do it justice. So I really think that this is a book that if you get a chance to read, whether you buy it yourself, it's gifted to you, you like have to check it out from the library, bought it from a friend, you really should try to read this if you get a chance to. It was great. I love this book so much. So I might still sound a little stopped up before I start talking about the book, but sorry, I still got a little bit of a cold. I really don't know how to describe this book because I'm afraid I'm going to spoil it for you, but also like there's so much to say without spoiling it that I could be here all day because it's so good. So I think I told you a little bit what it's about because I have a really bad habit of like not reading the whole summary for a book. Like I'll read the first, the bold part up here, and then like
maybe the first couple sentences, and I'm like, I'm gonna read it, or I'm not gonna read it. And so I didn't really know for sure what all this one was about. I just knew it had to do with, you know, Desiree and Stella being like black women who were white passing, and they ran away from home. But the whole book, it was like Stella had a section, her daughter Kennedy had a little bit of a section, Desiree had a section, and her daughter Jude had a section. And it's like kind of, so it's like a family drama, and it's told in third person point of view, but also like, and it's divided into different sections. I think there's 5 or 6 parts, and like each part, and it has the chapters in it, and I think each part like primarily talks about one of the girls. And so like, you know a lot about each person, and it's multi-generational, and it takes place over so many years. I think it's like a 30 to 40 year period, because it starts from the twins. Like, it really starts when the twins are like 16, running away from home, and they're like, so that's gotta be, I think, the late 50s or early 60s, and then by the late 60s they both have kids. Actually, the first chapter, or the first part, let me see if I can read this without my glasses. So part 1 says The Lost Twins, 1968, and it talks about, you know, like their backstory, why they ran away. And like Desiree has, like, at the beginning of the book, you know her reason. She just wants to get out of Mallard. She wants somewhere bigger, more open-minded, I guess. Whereas Stella, you don't find out why she agreed to run away until really late in the book, probably around the halfway mark. And then like eventually, Stella runs away from Desiree, and you don't find out why she did that until also really late in the book, because Desiree never found out. And Jude, who is Desiree's daughter, she's probably like one of the biggest catalysts in this book for like how everything happens. Because, so like I said earlier, Desiree and Stella are very light-skinned black women, and so like they're able to pass as white. And Stella actually lives her life passing as a white woman, and like her whole life is kind of built on a lie, like with her husband and her daughter believing that she is white. And so she's like living in this constant fear of being caught and people finding out she's black. And so that kind of makes her extra racist, because she's afraid, like, you know, another black person might be able to discover her secret and might call her out on it. So she's kind of like extra racist towards black people, and she's constantly on edge about having her secret discovered, but also like you kind of feel like she wants to tell somebody. And then Desiree, after Stella ran away, she eventually moved again, and then she eventually met and fell in love with a man, and she fell in love with a man who was very dark-skinned, and she had Jude, and Jude ended up looking a lot like her dad. And eventually Desiree and Jude moved back to Mallard, and the town Mallard is like has a lot of colorism, I guess is how you would say it. Like it's a town where it's mostly black people, but most of them are very not white passing, most of them are very light-skinned. And they are very racist or prejudiced towards black people with darker skin. So Jude is bullied by her peers, and I'm sure by, like, you know, adults in the town as well, her whole life. And then also Jude's grandmother even, like, at one point tries to help her, like, find homemade ways to lighten her skin when Jude is a child. And so then Jude also turns out to be really, really good at running track, and she gets a college scholarship to UCLA. And so, like, that's where the story really, really begins, is in part 2, 1978, where June leaves and goes to UCLA. And I feel like Jude's really important because, so Jude's just who I attach to. I have a really bad habit of reading and attaching to one specific character. So the story to me seemed to centralize around her the most. Everyone is mentioned, everyone has a section, and like everyone is involved, and everyone has dynamic characters, and they're all very like deep, and to me they're deep, and they're all very nuanced and human, and they're all likable and not likable, just like humans are. They're all like, it's frustrating. It's like Stella is very frustrating because you understand why she is the way she is, but also you don't want her to be that way. Whereas Desiree, you just kind of feel bad for her because, like, you know, she had a really good job, but then she came back to Mallard, and like now she's just living with her mom again. And but also, like, I don't know like how to describe it. Just I liked this book a lot. But like Jude, she's kind of like, I think one of the biggest catalysts in the story is because everything happens because of her, almost. So like, first also, because like I said, June was like very much bullied and stuff because of how dark her skin was.
compared to like her other classmates and people in Mallard. She also, I think, was more accepting of pretty much anyone else who was around. For example, Reese, she meets this guy named Reese and at a party, and they eventually become friends, and like neither of them ever want to admit their feelings, so I guess they're both scared. But Reese eventually like admits to her that he used to be Therese. He used to be a girl, but he transitioned whenever he ran away from home and moved from, I think it was Arkansas to California. And like, you know, from what everything I could tell about the story, Jude was very accepting of that and open and like willing to help and just try to make Reese comfortable. And then like also a lot of Reese had some friends who were drag queens that Jude was also very accepting of. And the only reason I say that is because like I think the story took place in the like from like, you know, the 60s, 70s, 80s. And so I don't know how accepting society was of like drag queens, and like I don't think they're very accepting of like transgender people, because like transgender people struggle now. And I know drag queens struggle now. I don't know like a lot about those communities, and I especially don't know about those communities back in like the 60s, 70s, 80s, because I didn't even exist till 1996, and I'm pretty sure my earliest memories probably started around 2000. So I feel like Jude overall is a very accepting person. She's not very open. She's a lot like Stella in some ways. She's like kind of private and secretive, whereas Stella's daughter Kennedy is a lot like Desiree. She's a lot more open and stuff, and I thought that was kind of interesting the way their daughters reminded them of each other, even though like Stella and Desiree hadn't spoken in years. And I don't know, I can't talk about this really anymore without spoiling it, but just read the book. It's so good. It deals a lot with like family and like this particular family's struggles, like with I think maybe communication struggles, but also just struggles with like each other's own identities and like decisions and stuff. And also like, because I think Desiree and Stella are like identical twins. I know Desiree for sure, from what I read about her, seemed to struggle with being apart from Stella, where it's never clear if Stella really struggled with being apart from Desiree or if Stella kind of struggled being with Desiree. And so like Stella seems to definitely miss Desiree, but not the same way that Desiree seems to miss Stella. And then like, I don't know, I just don't know how to describe it. It's really good. I really think you should read it. And like, that's the family aspect. There's a lot of race aspects as well, because of like, you know, Stella passing as a white woman, Jude being as dark as she was and growing up in Mallard, as well as whenever she eventually does meet Stella's family, and Kennedy not believing her at first, because Kennedy doesn't even look like she could have been mixed. Kennedy just looks completely white, is the way she's described in the book, even down to the blonde hair, blue eyes. And then Jude is like very dark skinned. So it's definitely, this was an amazing book. I love this. Like I said, it was my favorite that I read this month. Probably hold it up, sorry. It was definitely my favorite that I read this month. But yeah. Anyways, thanks for sticking through this with me, you guys. Sorry that this video took forever. This video was supposed to be up, I think, 2 weeks ago, maybe 3. I don't know exactly when, because life happened. A reading slump hit me hard. I actually read this book, like I'd read 5 or 10 pages at a time, and then I wouldn't read anymore. And so I know it wasn't this book, because I didn't want to read anything else either. Because normally if I'm bored with one book, I'll read another. Or even fan fiction. I didn't want to read fan fiction. And so it's just, the reading slump hit me hard, and yeah. But anyways, like I said, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it, and I will talk to you guys next week, hopefully.